of Get In The Flo, where we're kicking your assets in gear. I'm the architect.
I am Doc.
We're going to bring you another great episode today. We're here in the studio with Kevin Holmes of Holmes Creative Solutions. And today we're going to be talking about how revenue grew and life changed after an ADHD diagnosis. This is going to be such a fun interview. I want to tell you a little bit about Kevin and his background real quick, and then we'll jump right into it. So he grew up in poverty, and he gravitated.
That's the word. That's the word.
Is that the word?
I know.
Okay. I'm the architect. I'm not the reader. Right. All right. So he gravitated to art, designing his first logo in 5th grade. This guy's he started out with crayons.
Yeah. I don't remember what those are.
I do too. Right. All right. So he's always been an artist since childhood. That's such a cool thing.
Oh.
He was diagnosed with ADHD in 2022, which changed his life. And he's designed thousands of business. He's designed for thousands of businesses over the last 10 years, from mom and pop to Fortune 500. So that's going to be exciting to hear about.
Yes.
His passion is about branding and visual identity. And his ADHD actually led him to naturally gravitate towards art as a form of communication and articulation versus using words. So this ought to be interesting, because we're going to be doing an interview in words today. So this will be cool to hear how he paints a picture.
Absolutely.
So Holmes Creative Solution is currently narrowing their offerings, and they've been seeing an increase every quarter since they started. So that's pretty awesome. Kevin, man, it's great to have you. It's an honor to have you on the show.
Yes.
So
yeah, thank you.
Doc's got a question for you.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
In this realm of artisticness, which I am lacking in, I wanted to kind of lay it all out there for you in the first question of you painting us that picture of how you got started and a little bit about your business and overall.
Yeah, so how I got started in my business, I after college, I worked for a small wrap shop in Michigan, and we did vehicle wraps and signs, and that's really where I learned a lot about small business and how it all works and stuff like that. And I mean, I've always known I wanted to work for myself. You know, I've worked in customer service since I was 16 and able to hold a job. So I knew I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. But after working for people and stuff like that, I was like, no, like I want to be my own boss for sure. So I always knew I was going to start my own business, but I was leaving it up to the universe for when that was going to happen, sort of thing. And when COVID happened, I had been working at that shop for about 5 years, I believe. And I was just like, I guess now's the time. And that's how I got started. I started doing freelance work for different individuals and people that I've met over the years, and things just started snowballing. I get reference after reference after reference, and my schedule was booked, and I've just been doing that ever since, and learning and growing and continuing to see where I want to take it.
So you're basically in your 3rd year on your own.
Yeah.
Wow.
Basically. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Okay.
Well, you had mentioned something in your bio that you sent over, that you are a creative.
Yes.
I don't know if a lot of people really understand what that means, and there's probably a lot of people that can really relate to your story. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so it's kind of something that, I mean, literally over the last couple of weeks, I was just like, you know, I have trouble, like I want to identify myself as something, and it's not just like a business owner or a graphic designer or, you know, like an artist maybe, but really it's like, it's everything. Like I love business. I love everything that has to do with art. My wife, she's like a corporate queen. So I get all of the corporate side stuff too. We talk about all that stuff. So it's just like, yeah. So it's like anything that I can use my creativity for, like I'm just down for it. I'm passionate about it. And I really just felt like that's a good way to sum up. You know, I looked up some definitions. I don't even know them off the top of my head. I just know that that's what I identify as. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I wanted to read a little bit more of that, because it was so cool. And I know you referenced Chat GPT, which is awesome.
Yeah.
That's a new term you figure it out. But yeah, you said, let's see, openness to new experiences, risk taking, flexibility, adaptability, persistence, and dedication, and kind of just this this creative essence in general of who you are. And I love that, man. That's so, so cool. I know there's other people out there, but it's really cool to see that you've identified that in yourself. That's such a huge step that really can pogo stick you forward.
Yeah,
Do you
a lot of times, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, please.
I was just going to say, a lot of times in business, they tell you that you need to niche down, that way your messaging is clear and you know exactly what you're doing. And it's always been hard because it's like, I love doing logos and branding. I'm also exceptional at vehicle wraps. I love painting and drawing. I've done murals for buildings, and it's like, I just kind of go wherever my energy takes me. And it's like, to niche down seems like I'm cutting myself off. And so like saying that I'm a creative, like, allows me to like experience all of it, I guess you could say. And so eventually what I'd like to do is like brand myself as Kevin the Creative and have a few different businesses underneath me, one that specializes in logos and branding and one that specializes in teaching graphic designers how to properly design and set up for print for vehicle wraps and signs and stuff like that. And, like, I don't want to limit myself. I want to be able to experience everything that, I'm good at and that I can give back to the world.
So it's funny that now I don't know if Doc knows this about me, but when I started college back in the mid 90s, I was actually in graphic design school. I bought my first real computer. I'm going to say my real computer because it was this was the 486 SL, so I'm kind of dating myself just a little bit. and the 486 means that was the memory of the computer. It was really sad.
I had no idea.
Had floppy disks and everything.
Oh, it was a 3.5 floppies, but my first computer was actually a Commodore 64, and I used to do stuff on that with the 5 1/4s, or 5 1/4s. Those were really floppy, but we had I used to go around to businesses and I would design logos and I would design flyers, and I did a lot of desktop printing and publishing and newsletters and things like that. And so to hear you talk about this, it's like I kind of get all chilly inside, and it's kind of fun. But so if you're talking to other artistic people who they want to figure out how to get a business going or how to be creative without selling out, because I know a lot of artists feel like if they're doing commercial work like this, they can feel kind of like a sellout or some sort. What would you say to somebody like that?
I would say two things. One is, don't limit yourself based on societal norms. Like pay attention to yourself, know yourself, do whatever feels right for you, because every single person is different. An artist is an umbrella term. And if you're not cool with doing commercial work and you don't, get anything out of that, then don't do it. Like, don't let anybody tell you what you want to do. Only you know that. Second thing would be is quit trading time for money, trade value for money. That's the biggest thing I've learned in my journey is, when you start off and you're working for customer service jobs or, minimum wage jobs and stuff like that, it's all about, well, like, am I going to buy this because that's equal to like a full day of work for me? And you start to think about everything in exchange of hours. And it's like, it's really hard to get out of once you've been doing it. But once you're able to do it, it's really just all about an exchange of, can you provide enough value for whoever your target audience is, that's going to be worth it for them to spend the money that you're asking for. And if you think about it like that, I mean, you're golden. You can do whatever creative outlet you want to do and just find your niche and just keep learning and growing.
That's awesome.
That hits me hugely in my heart, because I am still in that normal job that is still based off of your hourly rate and working your set amount of hours and starting to transition out of that. So that hits me incredibly hard. And I know it's kind of recent to you as well before COVID, but I do want to get into this whole concept of you getting diagnosed with ADHD and this being recent. It's not like a kid thing only. You've had this recent, and it's changed your life. It's like, man, it changed your life when you were in your 30s. It sounds like. That's amazing. Tell us more.
So this might be known knowledge, I guess, but there's a huge influx in ADHD diagnoses around the world. And a lot of it, I think, is because of social media, like TikTok and stuff like that. There's a lot of people who go on there and they talk about their ADHD, and people are seeing that and they're like, wow, like I relate to that. You know, and people think that ADHD is like about hyperactivity, and like, you know, that's why I always like, I don't have ADHD. I'm not bouncing off the walls, running around like people said, you know, that's what it was. And so I actually found out on TikTok, and I was like, wow, like these are all the issues that I've been dealing with my whole entire life. And so I made an appointment and went and got diagnosed. And once I got on medication, it was like, I realized that a lot of my life, it's like walking up a down escalator. You know, it's like, I know I need to go do this and get to work. I know I need to do this, but it's like, if it's not interesting or new or something you're passionate about, like your brain just doesn't want to do it. It's like negative momentum. And so what I've learned is that it's you don't have regular amounts of dopamine, which is like the reward hormone in your brain that, you know, gets you motivated in doing things. And once I got medicated, it was just like everything just seemed effortless. Like something came into my mind and I wanted to do it, and I was just able to go do it. There's no resistance. And just that alone has like, now I just keep making more money. I keep learning. I keep growing. I've been on the blocks. I'm doing this interview. You know, I've got some huge clients now that I can't even talk about because I've signed NDAs and stuff like that. There's some products coming out this year that are going to be all over the US that I've done branding for. And
that's fantastic.
It's been crazy. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
That kind of leads me into, I know you kind of got into it a little bit earlier, but what does the perfect day look like? The ideal day in your mind look like?
The ideal day. So I'm married and I have a 14-year-old kid. And so my wife, she works hybrid as well. So sometimes she's in the office and sometimes she goes into work. Sometimes she's at home and we have a shared office. So a perfect day for me is like, you know, I wake up, do my morning coffee thing with my wife, take my kid to school, come back, spend a good like 4 hours of work, like hard work. I don't like to like break it down into time. Like I'm trying to do it based off of my energy and doing like time blocks. So it's not like so rigid and structured like our society tends to be, because that just doesn't fit for neurodivergent people. And so it's kind of like I just go wherever, you know, the energy takes me. But I mean, being done at like 3-4 o'clock, you know, getting my kid from school and just having the day with the family is, I mean, and that's how it is. Like I have great days every day. So
that's awesome. So like, let's dig into that for just a second, because I think a lot of people watching, when they get into a business, they penalize themselves and they beat themselves up because they're not keeping an exact schedule, or they're not following an exact structure.
Yeah.
And there's some people that are super analytical that works perfect for them. There's other people that are more artistic on the spectrum that are all over the place. And if you've got if you're dealing with ADHD, it might be like, I'm the guy that's like squirrel. Where did we go? You know, and I get lost. And so sometimes I don't have exact systems. So can you kind of like, I think we have to break that social norm and say that it's okay to work the way that you work.
Exactly.
So can you speak more to that? Like how that works out for you?
Definitely. So another great piece of advice to keep in mind, and this is with all aspects of life, is like nothing has to be permanent. People tend to think like, if I'm going to do this, then all right, then I need to stick to it. Like I have to do this. It's like, no. Sometimes I take notes in this journal. Sometimes it's on one app on my computer or another app on my website or the calendar on my wall. And I just take it day by day. Like if you're limiting yourself, then you go into like a shame spiral and you're like, well, you know, like I spent money on this book. Like, why am I not using this? You know, and by doing that, really you're limiting yourself and you're bogging down your own energy. It's just like, you were made just the way you are. Like lean into that. Like learn about yourself and your strengths. Like every single person is different. You might be similar to other people, but you really gotta know yourself. You gotta keep digging in and finding out what works for you and what doesn't. And it doesn't have to be permanent. Like you can change it up 3 times a day, every day, once a week, every 3 months. Like do whatever works for you.
And so you actually, when you started to figure out who you were, you started seeing exponential growth in your business.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So can you kind of lean into that a little more?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of in the same concept. Like you, it's just not trying to be like everyone else. You know,
Like that.
like some of the people I've worked for, like I do contract work for a lot of wrap shops around the US, and you know, that stuff is still hourly based. My branding and stuff like that isn't, but you know, they're like, I need this by this time and this then, and it's like you got to set boundaries with them. You got to let them know like this is how I work, and if you're good enough, like there's nothing that you can't say because they want your work, sort of thing.
Right.
Maybe repeat the question one more time if I didn't answer it that well.
No, I think it was just
Yeah.
like you had mentioned when you started to identify yourself, when you were
Mhm.
diagnosed with your ADHD and whatnot, you mentioned that your revenue started growing and
Yeah,
you started to see leaps and bounds in your business. So
yeah.
just kind of maybe lean into that a little bit.
Yeah, so I mean, once you know yourself and you start digging in and how you even go about doing that, you know, I started listening to podcasts. I mean, once I found out I had ADHD, is like I did an ADHD deep dive and figured out everything there was to know about ADHD and
Yeah.
seeing like what I relate to, what I don't relate to, what things I struggle with and don't struggle with. And then once you get all that down, you can lean into, okay, there's got to be, you know, systems and structures that somebody else has made. You know, like don't try to reinvent the wheel. You don't need to solve problems that's already been solved. There's 8 billion people in the world. I doubt, you know, like what you're struggling with, somebody else hasn't already struggled with and figured it out. There's no reason
Awesome.
to go through the same problems other people have when the information's out there. You know,
That's
just
a great point.
like search for it. We have the internet. You know, we can do that.
That's
And
awesome.
That's incredible.
once you do that, you just start, you know, implementing those systems, seeing what works and what doesn't, and it just kind of falls into place.
That's
amazing.
fantastic.
I know I definitely find myself slowly falling into my alignment of where I feel like I am and being okay with that. For a long time, I was having a harder and harder time with that. And so kind of finding your identity, I think totally pogos you into the future. Obviously, the passion behind that is something big that you kind of went into too. But you know, starting your this new venture, this new thing, which a lot of the people that are watching are going to be doing, whether that's investing new ways or doing their own startups themselves. Yeah, I think it's pretty easy to get into a burnout. And I know you mentioned that a little bit in your bio that you sent to us. Like, what did that look like for you? And maybe a couple of tips of how you got over that. And it almost sounds like now you don't even have that hardly.
Yeah, no, I've definitely, I mean, you got to build the life you want. You know, I don't make any exceptions. I'd rather downgrade our house and lose some things than live a little bit, you know, less or more frugal and not be stressed out and be burnt out. You know, like you just got it's all about priorities and what's important to you. But at that time, I actually burnt out so much to where I had my first panic attack, and that was what put me over the edge. I was like, I can't do this. Clearly, this isn't working for me,
Wow.
and that's when I didn't know they were called boundaries then, but started setting some boundaries,
Yeah.
and everything just kind of, you know, went better from there. But yeah, don't burn yourself out. It's really like knowing yourself is such a, it could be like an umbrella term, but it's so important because you can't navigate this reality without knowing how yourself works. And you know,
Right.
we grow up and tend to think, you know, we get put in these boxes and all these labels, and we're trying to like, based on the outside world, like how do we identify ourselves? And you're not going to get that from the outside world. Like you gotta look within yourself and pay attention and be aware. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I love
That's
that.
awesome.
That hits me.
We're kind of coming in for a landing. So if you were
Yeah.
to if you were to give some advice to somebody who's starting out in your space and they're a creative like yourself, you know, what kind of advice would you give them starting out?
Besides the knowing yourself and not trading time for money, there is an organization or business called The Future. It's FUTUR, no with no E at the end. They just provide so much value for free. You can look them up on YouTube, or go to their website. But if you're creative and you want to start a business, the owner or founder's name is Chris Do, and his mission is to help 1 billion creatives make money doing what they love.
Wow,
And
that's awesome.
Wow.
he just like that, I would attribute a huge amount of my success to. So if you're a creative and like you're in the art industry and you want to start a business, like start by following him and absorb all of those videos and all the information that he has, because it's going to exponentially like change your life as well.
That's a mic drop right
That's a
there.
mic drop. Absolutely. I'm already like, I already have at least multiple people in mind that are, I would call them creatives. I'm sure they would call themselves that I'm going to immediately reference them to. That's going to change their life, man. That's huge.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. Great. So how would people get in touch with you if they're looking for your services or anything like that? How would they find you?
Yeah, I'm still working on my website. I did a rebrand right before the block, so I'm still working on all that while doing work and doing the family thing. So that's coming slow. But I do have a Facebook and an Instagram, or you can just Google Holmes Creative Solutions. There's a Google site too, and it'll link to everything.
Awesome.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. Well, we appreciate you being on the show. It's been great having you and learning more about you. And,
Yeah.
definitely make sure that you check out the description below. We're going to add Kevin's links in the description down below, so you can check him out if you're in that space and you need a vehicle wrap or you're needing some branding and you figure out your identity and in your business. Then man, Kevin's a guy, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know I'm already starting to whirl around ideas of you helping us with not even just branding, but logos and everything. I mean, that's something where
Definitely.
we might not be perfect at it, but we can partner up with somebody who is incredible at it. That's what you got to do in this world.
That's it.
For sure. Yeah, your network is your net worth.
That's it.
Love it, man.
That's it.
Well, thank you again, dude. It's been a pleasure. We are excited for the future of this relationship, and we can't wait to talk to you soon.
Guys,
Awesome.
this
Yeah.
yeah, this
pleasure as well.
concludes another fantastic episode of Get in the Flow. We're kicking your assets in gear. I'm the architect.
This is Doc.
Until next time.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks.
Thanks.